most of us don't see a logo positioned somewhere and run to the store and go buy that product. What you want to talk about is how can you integrate that sponsor into your project, your event, your nonprofit, gala, your fundraiser. So how can you connect that sponsor with your audience?
Welcome back to another episode of the Succeed Against the Odds show. Today, as my guest, I have Charmaine Hammond.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Welcome. I am thrilled to have you here for multiple reasons. One of them because I've had you as a speaker at one of my events, so it's a special thing to have you here. The other thing is because you're a very knowledgeable person and an expert in a topic that is so important to pretty much every industry and organization. And also, as I know a lot of people that can benefit from what you have to share. So, Charmaine, for the benefit of the audience who may not know who you are, can you just share with us a little bit about what you do and what led you there?
I might start with what led me there than to what I do. So when I first started out after college, I was actually a correctional officer. I wasn't an entrepreneur. I worked in the jail system and in Ontario, and I really found my passion and purpose working with young offenders. So I worked in a government organization. Everything was perfect. Didn't have to worry about running a business. It was all done for me. And when I left that job, the place that we moved to in Alberta didn't have a jail for me to work at. So I actually had to get a new career. They actually had a jail, but there was nobody in it. It was closed. And so I took a new career and I ran a nonprofit organization. And that's where I started learning about sponsorship and collaboration, because my job was all about getting money for the organization. So that's what I was doing. Left there, went and worked in government, and actually sat on the other side of the table for sponsorship. So I was in the role of the person making decisions on grants and sponsorship. I had about $2.5 million a year, not my own money, but to give away. And so that's what kind of led me to 21 years, in business now, what I'm doing. But prior to working in sponsorship and collaboration and helping entrepreneurs, I opened up a mediation company because when I left the jail system, I missed conflict and went back to school and got a degree in conflict analysis and management. And that's what prompted me to open up my own company. We grew really fast. I learned that collaboration was the way that would help my business scale and grow at the rate and the pace that would work for us. And then fast forward to now, we opened Raise a Dream, my business partner, Rebecca and I, and now we help entrepreneurs build collaborations and sponsorship to fund their projects with other people's money.
That's quite the
weird path to
yeah,
get
it's
there.
a very interesting path.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to you being a correctional officer, because I think that's fascinating. You said, I love conflict. What is it about conflict that fascinates you? I'm sure it's not the conflict itself, but probably resolving the conflict.
Yes, and it's not my own conflict that I enjoy. Let me be clear. I was actually a conflict avoider. When I was young, I was really, really shy and hated any kind of conflict. And when I learned the principles of collaboration and what we call interest-based conflict resolution, which is where you look at what is driving people's motivations, what under the surface is causing them to be positional and angry. And what I learned, I remember the very first mediation I ever did, it was with a family who was, how can I politely word this, very hostile with each other, and actually hadn't had a conversation in a speaking voice for many years. And the process, because it provides them with safety and courtesies or ground rules and structure and a non-biased, impartial facilitator, I watched this family who for years couldn't communicate to, within about 3 sessions, building a really, really powerful agreement that supported their family. And, it did that hundreds of times with corporate conflicts and with family and community conflicts. So what I love about conflict is exactly what you said, the process of helping people get there. And conflict is natural. And man, in business, we have conflict all the time. You know, we hire people that we get in disagreements with. We have conflicts in our relationships at home and with our friends and colleagues, and it's just part of life. But when you can really have conversations and get to the heart of the matter, or what's sort of brewing below the surface, it's really incredible to see how innovative and life-changing outcomes can be.
And what you said, the key is the communication.
Totally.
If there's no communication, I find that as well. I see it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just the miscommunication or the lack of it.
Lack of it, yes.
Right? It's
Yep.
one of the two.
Yeah.
Like this family you're mentioning. So let's get back to Raise a Dream.
Mm-hmm.
So now what you do in that business, with this business, is you help organizations and companies find sponsorships, on how to find sponsorships.
Yeah, we teach them the principles of sponsorship and how it works and how to build meaningful relationships with companies that want to make a difference through sponsorship. And what's really important to clarify, there's a misperception out there with a lot of entrepreneurs that sponsorship is just for nonprofits. And that's not true, actually. Sponsorship is best described as a marketing relationship. So a big company, a bank, an insurance company, even your local coffee shop, they all have dollars for marketing. And where sponsorship falls, it's not a donation, it's not a handout, it's not philanthropy. It's a company choosing to spend their marketing dollars on supporting your event. At your event, you had sponsors, so they were choosing to support your event versus spending money on digital ads, or in the old days, yellow page campaigns. So it's really, if you think about it from the marketing perspective, in sponsorship, you're working with that sponsor to help them solve some of their issues, to help them get in front of your audience.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you, from the entrepreneur or the business or the organization that right now may be thinking, I don't see the value in being a sponsor. Can you shed some light on that? Because sometimes I've come across that where it's like a smaller business doesn't see the value of that extra visibility or hitting the right niche, being in the right niche and sponsoring, because they feel like they're doing something for free in return for nothing, because they may not see that immediate return.
Yeah.
Can you give your advice, your insight, your perspective on this?
I love that question because we see it all the time, especially for companies who haven't done sponsorship, where it's not been part of their marketing. So they look at the amount of time or money that might, even in a small sponsorship, go into it. And sponsors expect return on investment. And some of the sponsors we've talked to said they look for the same return of investment that they gave, or some say 3 times the investment that they provided in sponsorship is what they want to get back. So what becomes really critical when you're talking to a company and they might be hesitant or not seeing where it's going to have value for them and bring them ROI, the first thing is to be really, really clear on your audience. So the more specifics that you can find out about your audience, the better you can translate that to the sponsor. Because sponsors are essentially looking to market to an audience that you have, which means it's going to cost them way less money to acquire a potential client because you've brought them the audience. It's not like they're going to have to email thousands of people. You've brought them 50 people or 100 people or 200 people through your event or your nonprofit fundraiser. So get really clear on your demographics of the audience. You know, don't just say something like, I read one the other day. We work with women between 25 and 50, and that was it. But a sponsor wants to know, well, are these professional women? Are they moms? Are they company owners? What do they do in their spare time? Do they work? So who are? Tell us more about these women. So get really clear on your demographic and be able to describe that, and take time to find out from the sponsor who they're trying to get in front of and why. Really important.
And show them that's why there's a benefit, because it's their market that they're getting the visibility in.
Exactly. And part of it, I think one of the challenges is that a lot of sponsors who haven't done sponsorship, they think the only value that they're going to get is their logo somewhere. And really that doesn't even have a lot of value, because most of us don't see a logo positioned somewhere and run to the store and go buy that product. What you want to talk about is how can you integrate that sponsor into your project, your event, your nonprofit gala, your fundraiser. So how can you connect that sponsor with your audience? And I'll give you a great example. I was shared a story with me. There was an event host who had a granola bar company, some kind of food company that really wanted to be a sponsor at the event. And the event host was trying to figure out, how can we make this a meaningful partnership, and how can we do this in a way that's cost effective? This was a startup company, so their budget was limited. And they knew that what was important for them was to get people to try their food. Once people try the bars, they'll probably want to buy them. So showing a logo, shouting them out from the stage offered zero value to them. They wanted to have direct contact. So at this venue, there was quite a significant cost for parking. So what happened is the granola bar company paid for the parking for the attendees, but part of how the payment would happen is that they had to come up, bring their little sticker up, and get it validated by the granola company, who served them their choice on a silver platter of the snacks while they were getting a refund, and they got the opportunity to interact. And they said for a very small investment, that was by far the best marketing they'd ever done. They connected with nearly every person at that event. Now, the cost for them to have done that in any other way would have been far more expensive than what they paid to be at that event.
That's very clever. That's even better than just putting a granola bar inside of the swag bag.
Right, because all that does is it gives sampling, which means that people will take it home, or they'll give it to their kids, or they'll eat it on the way home, won't pay attention to the wrapper. But when you interact with that audience, what's happening now is that company gets to learn more about the audience. What do they need? What do they like? And they build a relationship. And what happens is people start to share stories. So I think about when I've been at conferences and events before, and they've had some kind of cool treat. And when you interact with the person giving you the treat, you tend to go home and brag about it to other people if you loved it.
Yeah, same as when you talk about Costco and all the samples you
Exactly.
get free.
And that's a great example. When you're doing that kind of sampling, you're connecting with the audience. They're coming right to you, which is a lot different than something in a bag.
So what's the smallest type of sponsorship that you've ever seen or have experienced yourself? Like, how small can a sponsor be?
I love that question, because it's the doors are wide open with sponsorship, and the key is to be innovative. And so when I first started playing around with sponsorship seriously in my business was 2010, when my first book, On Toby's Terms, was released. And I'm planning this big, lovely book launch. And as I'm doing the budget, it's getting bigger and bigger. And I thought, well, I don't want to pay for all of this, but more so, I want to build a community. So I reached out to 40 colleagues that I had in business that I knew through different business networking groups and conferences that I'd met, and explored the potential to be able to collaborate with them. So that year, tied into the book launch, I had 40 sponsors come on board. 0 cut a check. All of them did in-kind sponsorship. So I had my hair sponsored. I didn't pay for haircuts and color and style. I didn't pay for jewelry, clothing, accessories, printing for several years. And what happened, the beauty of those relationships is it was so natural. These were people I already knew, and I was able to help them, and they were able to help me. And so when we think about sponsorship, it's not just about getting cash. That in-kind sponsorship you get is so valuable. And what the sponsor is doing, this is the part I love, the sponsor becomes an ambassador for you and your business and your project and your brand. So you now have another company who's also promoting you and sharing with their audience who you are and what you do.
So what would you say is the best way now to ask for sponsorship and approach a company? Because way back when I looked for sponsorship, and when people were asking me for sponsorship, I would just get either a letter in the mail or an email. Now we've gone beyond that, because to me it's like, I don't even look at the emails we get.
Right.
We're so bombarded. So sending out an email or a letter is not enough anymore. No. So I've kind of gone through my own process in the way I I've looked for sponsors, but I don't want to share my part because you're the expert, and I like to hear from you. What is the best way to approach a sponsor that you would like to have for whether it's your event or your company or whatever it is, a company that you've never dealt with before? So kind of a cold turkey approach.
First thing is research. So you want to research that sponsor, really understand their brand. So you're looking at their website, their social media, watching their videos, watching and paying attention to how they engage with their audience on different social platforms. Look at their website. What does their website tell you from pictures, not words? What seems to be their value? Who are they trying to target? And then start to build the relationship. So it's all about researching them and building a relationship. And those two pieces together can really help you when you get in the conversation, because what you've said is so true. Sponsors receive hundreds, if not thousands, of proposals or pitches or sales calls a year from people who have amazing projects. But there's many people with amazing projects, and sponsors have to discern what's a fit for them. So the more research you do, the better questions you will ask them on the phone. And one of the sponsors that we work with, she comes to some of our retreats and our training programs and shares the insider information on sponsorship. And she said the number one turnoff, and this is, many sponsors say this, is that if they receive a pitch, a phone call, a proposal, when you've not done any relationship building. So she said it's sort of like you open your email and the emails are, hi, we have the greatest project. Would you give us $50,000? And the next one is, hi, we have the greatest project. Would you give us $5,000? And she said the ones that stand out are the ones that say, hi, we'd love to learn more about your company and what's important to you and how you're supporting the community in different projects that support your marketing goals. Could we set up a quick discovery call? So she said when people show interest in learning about the brand and what matters to that company, sort of makes them perk up and think, this might be a phone call I want to return.
Mm-hmm. Because it's not a one-way. It's
a two-way street.
It's no way, give me, I want your money kind of thing.
Exactly. It's sort of like, you're helping the sponsor at the same time the sponsor's helping you. It's very mutual. Mm-hmm. And you're both giving in the relationship and you're both receiving some kind of impact, some kind of result. It'll be different for you and the sponsor in terms of the result that you're looking for. But the key is to find where are those synergies? Where is their alignment? A great example is people will often approach companies that they love because they use their products and services. That's a great place to start, but you have to understand what the company values. So one of our clients was really, really excited. She was doing an amazing program for women. It was a small, intense program for women. And one of her favorite stores to shop in, because she's got kids and a husband who loves cars, is Canadian Tire. Well, Canadian Hot Tire doesn't usually fund wellness retreats for women. So she spent a whole bunch of time trying to sell them on why this was the perfect project for them. And if she had gone to their website, she came to us after she learned this. She went to the website, she would have noticed that everything was about sports and supporting children in getting involved in sports. So when she came to us, we were able to show her, you do that research first. Although you love that company, it might not be a fit and not worth doing the phone call because it takes time away from the company. And then it makes it look like you've not done any research, which she hadn't. So
do the research.
And you know what? She applied the learning and immediately got sponsorship.
That's awesome. And nowadays it's a lot easier to do that research before even making the call, because every company, especially any reputable company, has social media as well. So you can kind of get more of a feel of the company between the website, and a lot of websites have their values posted. Plus, like I said, there's online, you can find so much information. So it's kind of a good stepping stone before you make that call to find out even more, right?
Absolutely.
So who do you call? Let's just say, if you call a big company, a small company, we know it's the business owner, the manager, whatever. But when you have a big organization where there is a CEO and 20 executive assistants and all these marketing
lots
departments,
of gatekeepers.
So who do you call so that you can get that phone call click?
Okay,
we're not interested.
This is one of my favorite questions because there's a couple of shortcuts. So you're right, in a small company owner, they are probably the HR person, the funder, the accountant, the everything. But in a larger company, a lot of them will have a sponsorship department. But you'll notice when you go on a lot of big company websites, they don't put anything about sponsorship there. Or often they will have an online form. So we suggest never filling out the online forms. A lot of our sponsors have said online forms are sometimes a way of sort of vetting people that are not suitable for a sponsorship relationship because it's off-brand, it's not in alignment. And if you think about trying to present how amazing your project is and show a sponsor that you've really researched them in 60 characters, it's really difficult. So who do you call in sponsorship? There's a few ways that you can find out. Companies usually call their sponsorship arm sponsorship, community investment, public relations, community relations, or marketing. Those are kind of the terms that we see most often. So the key is never to phone up and say, hi, can I speak to the person who does sponsorship for your company? Because then you go through that nasty, press 2, press 1, they get hung up on.
Click. We're not giving any sponsorship today. We have exhausted our budget and sponsorships. Click. I know because I've been there. I've done everything wrong.
It's like, well, then you get distracted. You're like, what number was I supposed to press? And you got to go back. So here's the way to avoid that kind of craziness is to go into LinkedIn. We use LinkedIn. It's one of the most powerful social media platforms as it relates to sponsorship. So if you go into LinkedIn, you can search a company name. And then you can type in the company name and sponsorship. And it might not show up a person who has sponsorship in their title or in their background. Or you can punch in marketing or community investment or public relations. But what will happen is you'll start to see in LinkedIn the professionals that work for that company in the area of marketing or sponsorship or community relations. So now when you pick up the phone, you're not calling for the person who does sponsorship. You're calling for Bob Smith because you found his name in LinkedIn and you're getting put through to his direct email. And that is so powerful because it stops you from, first of all, it stops you from going all over the place and driving yourself crazy. And it gets you past the gatekeepers. Because in big companies, one of our sponsors said they get about 400 proposals a year. That doesn't include the 20 to 40 phone call messages they get daily between their team of 12. So imagine how many messages they're fielding and how many proposals and how many presentations people are coming to make for them every day. And so when you can ask for the person directly and get past the gatekeeper, it's so much easier to build the relationship. And you're not wasting time. You're not wasting 6 weeks or 3 months or 1 year in one case trying to find the right person.
Wow.
And you know where I met them? At an event.
Wow.
So go where your sponsors are. Look at what your sponsors are sponsoring, the people that you want to be in relationship with. Check them out. See what events they're going to be at. Volunteer at the event. My husband actually said, the sponsor you want to build a relationship with is the sponsor of this event. And we got ready and we went and we paid the admission to go to the event. And the head decision maker was the one that was behind the booth with her team. And that's how we met her. So go where your sponsors are.
There you go. Go with the sponsors. So this sounds like a whole lot of work. And some people are saying, well, I already have a business already. I'm busy enough. This seems like it's a whole other level of, I don't have time to do this because maybe the money that I lose by focusing on this may not be worth it. How much time, and would you say, I guess the bigger the ask, the longer, the more research, the longer it's going to take, right? Yeah. But on average, if there is such a thing for sponsorships, how would you, based on your own clients, the clients that you help, how much time do they put into research and actually get a result?
It's sort of all over the map. What I have found is that there's a tendency for people to sort of get bombarded by ideas and research, and then it actually stops them from doing the work, the phone calls, the relationship building. So we suggest look at 5 or 10 companies that you'd really love to be in relationship with, where you know automatically there could be some synergy between your audience and the audience they're trying to get in front of. Do a little bit of research and then pick up the call, pick up the phone. And what they call the discovery call is usually 20 to 30 minutes for the first phone call, and you want to make it all about them. finding out about the brand.
It's all about them.
It is. It
all about
so
them.
is. Because what normally happens is people get nervous, and in their head they're saying, it's all about them. It's all about them. Hi, I've got this great project. And they make it all about us. So resist that urge to talk about how great our project is. Take the time just for 20 minutes for them to get to know you, your personality. You know, there's no right or wrong. There's no automatic fit. No sponsor is going to say it's a deal in 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. It's a process. But what happens is that when you follow the model that works and you spend that time building a relationship, things move quicker if it's going to be a yes. And so I would rather spend time nurturing 3, 4, 5 relationships than 15 or 20 at a time that are just sporadic and there's no energy and momentum behind them. And a lot of times if you do your job well and build that relationship with the sponsor may say, have you thought of contacting such and such a company? Because we often sponsor the same kind of projects as they do. So we've had that happen a number of times in our own projects where a sponsor will suggest another company that we should be working with, or they will bring the sponsor on. And we had that happen with our Million Acts of Kindness tour. Our motorhome sponsor, Fraser Way RV, who I love to pieces.
Tell us about that. Tell us about that.
Fraser Way RV, I love that. You know, I didn't even know what a motorhome was. Well, I knew what it was, but I'd never been in one. And we went to where the sponsors were.
You got a motorhome. You got a motorhome sponsored.
We did for our 6-week tour. We did a tour right across North America, 14,000 kilometers over 6 weeks. And Fraser Way RV was our sponsor. And this is a brand new relationship. We'd never met them before. We went to the trade show in Abbotsford, the motorhome RV trade show. And we went to every single booth. And the minute we saw Fraser Way RV, there was just a synergy. You could feel it. The gentleman was not trying to sell us anything. He was interested. Why we were interested in a motorhome when I'd never been in one or driven one before. And so he connected us with the sponsorship marketing team that Monday. And so what he did from the conversation we had with him at the RV trade show was he expedited the speed in which that relationship happened. But Fraser Way RV became such an ambassador in this whole planning process that they leveraged some of the relationships they had with sponsors and brands to become part of our event and project.
Cool.
And they have since done amazing things that have supported some of the nonprofits that we love
and now
to
they're
support.
getting the advertising because you're talking about it, and I think you talk about this often.
All the time.
You talk about them, so
because this was almost 3 years ago.
Yes.
So when you talk about value, let's look at that for a minute. This is a company that we love. Their values are so in line with us. But the project that they sponsored with the motorhome was almost 3 years ago. But 3 years ago, I'm still telling their story because it's so powerful and it changed everything for us. I mean, they became our vehicle of kindness. And so when you work with sponsors and you become the ambassador of their mission, like you can tell a story that they can't tell themselves. And that's what's so beautiful about sponsorship.
you're the testimonial.
Yeah, and you can talk about them as a business, as a brand. You know, instead of talking specifically to their products, you can talk about the way in which they make a difference in the world.
And exactly, and you're also talking about their values that aligned with yours. So how beautiful is that? Whether you want to be a sponsor, which I think every company should consider being a sponsor.
Absolutely.
At some level, even if it's a small thing like giving haircut.
Yeah.
Right? Something as simple as that.
Yeah. You know, my printing sponsor, this goes back to 2010, she stopped tracking long ago how much return on investment she got from the initial sponsorship. And since we've been partnering together over these years, we've brought her government clients, we've brought her business clients, probably 6 or 7 of my nonprofit clients, some of the entrepreneurs. And it's not because we're out there pushing that company. We talk about them and we believe so strongly in what they do and how they serve people that the stories just come out. And when we tell stories about companies, it allows them to be positioned in the world in a very different place than their traditional marketing. Like a pamphlet or a postcard or a business card doesn't say what I just said about Fraser Way.
Exactly.
right? And you see people's face when they talk about them, and you talk about the results. I mean, I remember one of the funniest things when we went to pick up the RV, one of the staff there was showing us the RV and how it works. And of course, Chris, my husband, is paying very close attention to this.
Is
And
he the
I'm
driver?
he's going to be driving. He drove the whole 6 weeks except for 3 hours. That's all I did. And I just drove straight. And if I had to turn, I stopped the vehicle and let him take over. But what my excitement was the little buttons that made the sliders move out and move in. So here we are picking up the RV.
Did you do video and stream that to the world and say, this is what we got? So look at wow, this is amazing marketing.
My friend Jean actually was there, Jean Kay being our photographer and our videographer. And, I just remember watching some of the photographs and the videos, and I thought, wow, my big excitement out of all of this was the sliders. But, what was super fun is that it got us thinking that, wow, there's probably a lot of people that were like me, newbies to the whole RV world. And maybe through the support that Fraser RV was giving us, maybe we could provide content to people that are considering, a motorhome rental or buying one. So we started doing a whole video series on the road about, right, and a blog. Then they started featuring us in their blogs. And so this is an example of how that initial sponsorship, which was the RV, blossomed into so many more things.
Mm-hmm. So they got way more in return than initially even expected.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
And it's like you, with the events that you've done, you've had people either as exhibitors or as sponsors that have continued to be a part of the event because they love the energy you create, they love the audience that you bring to the event, and they want to be a part of that, right? So even if it's a small sponsorship that a company is considering, it's a great way to extend having ambassadors for your business and ambassadors for your mission.
Fantastic. I love it. I love it. So you see
And it's
benefits
fun.
on both sides, and it's fun. Absolutely. Okay, so you have events coming up. Tell us about those.
Sure. Okay. Well, at Raise a Dream, we have different kind of events. We have online programs, but in September, we've actually got 3 live one-day intensive masterclasses.
And these are for entrepreneurs that are seeking
Yes, they're wanting to learn how to do this for their own business, how to build collaborations and how to work with sponsors. So we have one in Victoria on September 5th, and then Calgary is September 27th, and then Edmonton is September 28th. And my favorite part of I love the whole day with the entrepreneurs, but I think the favorite part for everyone, including me, is when we have sponsors join us, either live or by Zoom, and they talk to us about what drives them crazy. What do they want people to stop doing, like pitching them without a relationship, or doing a proposal, where you don't even know the person's name. Dear sir, will you give me money? They talk about the questions that they wish people would ask them. They talk about what feels right. What do they want to see from us? So that is so valuable, hearing from the sponsors, because you can take what they say and pretty much apply that to any other sponsor that you want to work with.
That's fantastic. So there you go. So how does our audience get in touch with you, whether it's for these specific events or future events or just working with you one-on-one? What's the best way to connect with you?
Well, we're Facebook lovers, so I always say join us on Facebook, Raise a Dream, and then the website is raiseadream.com. So get in touch with us there, follow us on social media, and that's the best way to communicate with us.
Well, this has been amazing. Lots of tips, lots of insights. So thank you so much for coming, being my guest, and for sharing all that you've shared, because it's gold. Literally, it is gold. So take it all to heart and get in touch with Charmaine. She's fantastic.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yay!